Business Connections Live, the UK's leading online business channel. This is Business Connections Live with Steve Hyland.
Hello there, welcome along. This is Business Connections Live. We are live. It is a lunchtime on a Monday and it's great to have your company as always. This is Business Connections Live number 82. We're talking all about radio today. In fact, we're talking about a whole raft of digital media, everything from radio, television, digital media. There's even a little bit of LinkedIn in there as well. So a real diverse program, but a fascinating one. If you've listened to the radio in the past and you thought to yourself, love to have my brand there, love to have my product there, but what's it going to cost me? How should I approach it? Where should I go to actually get it all sorted out? We're going to be talking about all of that in the next hour here on Business Connections Live. My guest on today's show is Richard Teideman, talking about how to put together an effective radio advertising campaign and TV campaign for that matter, and that's all to come on today's program. Richard, it is great to have you with us on the program today.
Thank you very much for having me.
People won't know who you are for Adam because you're one of the guys that is behind the scenes. You're one of the guys that are putting these ads together. Tell us a little bit about Richard Teideman.
So I graduated in media at the turn of the 1990s, and I have started up 4 media companies. And you end up really being an expert in all sorts of different media disciplines simply because you can't be just a master of one. In today's media-friendly world, if you're a businessman or a business person, you can choose so many different routes to do your advertising. The question is, which one is the right one? I've judged on some awards panels. I've made something in the region of 200 direct TV campaigns. I've been in digital for 14 years, and I'll be perfectly honest, I've probably done over 5,000 radio campaigns.
I thought you were going to say they were going to be perfectly honest and I don't know what I'm doing, sir.
No one knows what they're doing.
Actually, that's a very interesting point, because is the whole industry based effectively on hearsay? Yeah, of course it works. And people, because it's been said enough times that advertising truly on TV and radio does work, that people therefore just believe that. It's nearly folklore. I mean, does it really work for a business? And could it be really affordable for a business?
I'd say that a lot of advertising for people doesn't work. But the advertising that does work for people works in spades. And that's the big difference. So no one's going to tell you which part of their advertising isn't working. And it's very hard to get it from an ad agency, for example, because it's full of jargon and they're always going to talk it up. So really you need independent, impartial parties with no agenda to tell you the true facts about where to go and what to do. And that's very hard to find because everyone's got their own agenda. But the truth is it can work and it does work for people. Otherwise, companies like L'Oreal wouldn't be spending £100 million a year on it.
But do you have to be spending £100 million to make it work? That's what I'm saying. If you are a small SME or a small business, you've got a service that you want to run. I mean, for instance, we're going to be talking about the business show a little bit later on, and one of the keynotes there is Charlie Mullins from Pimlico. Now, is it for a Pimlico size organisation that you can do the advertising and it's going to work for you? Do you already have to have that base of customer or that name awareness for it to really sort of to get the numbers in for you?
I'd say it's like all things. If you've got a good business and people want to buy it, then really what advertising and marketing is an amplification of that process. So you can either sit on the phone and pick it up and sell to people, or you can actually shout about it in other ways. And so a good product will always work in advertising if it's done correctly. Whereas if you've got a bad business, advertising will not be the answer to your problems. You've got to solve your business problems first.
You mentioned a second ago that it's getting the analytics back. It's all important. And in this digital age, surely it's easier now for us to get those kind of analytics back. In the old days, when they would say 50% of your advertising works, the other 50% doesn't, but I don't know which of the 50% it is. Today, they say that that shouldn't be the case. You read online and people say you should know exactly what part of your advertising is working. You should be able to see right down to the last penny what pound has actually worked for you. I mean, in the old days when we had the local newspapers, the freebie sheets that were going out there, who have really hit rock bottom when it comes to it, right now when it comes to page advertising, you couldn't tell what was happening there. But surely within this digital age, with the kind of digital advertising, we should be able to do it now.
Yes, you can. Absolutely you can. And there are some very simple fundamentals of business marketing and principles and simple formulas you can follow for direct response advertising and marketing, but also there are ways in which you can track the cost, that it's the amount of money you're spending to get in one lead and how much that lead costs.
This is the ROI, isn't it?
ROI, yeah, that's right.
If I was going out and I was doing a campaign, is there a rule of thumb for our ROI, or is it if you go out there and your own ego drives you to have an ad that's less, rubbish, it ain't going to work? Or is it just by being there, people will actually listen and respond to your advertising? No,
what I would say is that there's a few things here. One, all advertising is mudslinging. The more you sling, the more sticks. Number two is the only reason to advertise is to actually get better results than if you hadn't have advertised in the first place. And the third thing is, forget about your brand unless you're a brand of cherry Coke or something like that. What you're looking for is you're looking for more people to buy your product because of your advertising than if you hadn't have done so in the first place. And I would say you've got to be a pretty large organisation before you move into the realms of, well, what do people think of us and let's spend a lot of money on brand. It's much simpler than that. It's about your bottom line, and your finance director and your finance controller are always going to love you if you say we spent this much on advertising and we got this much back. And if you can't do that equation, then you need to consider again how you're approaching everything.
I mean, it's very interesting. We do a lot of work with young enterprise, and we go along and we see these young people who are in their sixth form colleges, and they are running businesses within their sixth form college, and they're trying to get to grips with how business actually works. And you may find yourself in a similar situation, and you will see that they will use social media, and they will use those kind, YouTube, things like that, to actually promote their particular product. The thing that is interesting is that they've got a different perspective on the way that it actually works now. So should the likes of social media be part of your overall campaign? I mean, do we now still look in radio in isolation and TV in isolation and digital media in isolation? Or should we be saying, right, this is just one big pot and we've got to mix it all together?
I would say that you always have to have a media mix today. So it's very hard to just simply go on the radio and make that work unless you've got something that is particularly powerful. You need to back it up, because I don't know about you, but I read my tweets every day, I check my social media every day, I also listen to the radio and watch the TV every day.
But is that because you are very social savvy?
Oh,
and you're in the business as well, for that matter.
It's true. I mean, I sit on the train and I see everybody doing the same thing. So the thing is that I don't think I'm alone. I'm actually what's called an advert avoider, which is the nightmare, because I'll try and get into the space of the BBC stations and try and turn away from the adverts, otherwise it feels like I'm at work. So,
right.
So there's a big difference there. Whereas a lot of people are quite happy to actually see advertising and see entertaining adverts or listen to entertaining adverts, and they're quite happy to pay that price in order to get entertained from the radio or TV station that they're listening to or watching.
As an expert, okay.
What, you or me?
No, you. As an expert, we'll say an X is a has-been and a spurt is water under pressure. But as an expert, when you look at some of the campaigns, for instance, we've got the one at the moment with Brian the Computer, haven't we? Is that Go Compare or something?
Yeah.
Other brands, of course, are available.
Is it confused.com?
Confused. Yeah, see, that's really worked, doesn't it? I can remember the computer's name. Yeah. Can't remember the brand.
Yeah.
And do you think sometimes that the advertisers, they end up amusing themselves and thinking they've been very clever and funny, when in fact what's actually happening is the first thought that came into my mind is confused.com and not the actual brand. Well, Brian came into my mind.
Yeah.
So do you think the agencies get it wrong?
I think that often agencies have a hidden agenda. So either their agenda is they're just trying to make as much money as possible, and you can tell if your agency is doing that, because a typical agency default will be to put you on TV, because TV is the simplest, most profitable route to actually getting some results and actually making a decent amount of money at the same time. Whereas other agencies' agenda is they just want to win awards. So they're almost using your company to try and promote themselves and say, hey, look what a funny advert we've made, or look how entertaining this is. The truth is, I do agree that the best form of advertising is entertainment with a brand attached. But only if you're a very, very big multinational company. All the rest of us who actually live in the real world, we have to see results and we have to see profitability as a result of what we're doing. And that's a different thing, because that means that your commercial has to be a delivery vehicle that's going to make people respond. And if I can make you laugh, but you forget about me, I actually haven't fulfilled my remit. And that's where you need to be very careful about the message that you're giving.
It's very interesting you say that. I mean, when I look back at my shopping TV days, what we were trying to achieve, and this applies to the likes of QVC and the other shopping channels. I mean, for a start, they were very happy if there was one person spending £1 million or 1 million people spending £1. But there's a gentleman at QVC called Brian Farrelly who has been regularly quoted. I think he said a broadcast or something like that, and he said that what he wanted from his channel to be slightly entertaining. He didn't want it to be overly entertaining, because he didn't want people to be watching the presenters being funny or outrageous or wacky. What he wanted people to be engaged with the presenters, but he wanted them to see what the product was that they were selling.
Yeah, I think this is about talkability. So what really people have become distracted with is talkability. So ultimately people want to be the brand that everybody's talking about. That's incredibly difficult to do, and it always has been. To give a slightly oblique example, someone told me that Michael Jackson, in order to get the hit system that he had, used to have a team of 50 songwriters actually writing songs for him and offering them to him and saying, do you think that this is right or not? It requires a terrific amount of effort in order for Michael Jackson to create one hit single that will go around the world. What makes us think it's going to be any different to have that much effort in order for us to create something that everybody talks about on Twitter, for example? It's easy if you're George Galloway or somebody like that to get talked about for a period of time, but is that a good thing? Not necessarily.
Well, not for a lot longer.
Yeah, that's right.
We're waving him goodbye. You're watching Business Connections Live. It is programme number 82. My guest today is Richard Teideman. Great to have him with us. And we are talking about, I suppose it's the whole sphere of advertising, everything from radio through the TV. I mean, the premise on this is radio advertising campaigns. Do they work for small businesses? But probably more importantly, should they be part of your mix for a small business, that radio advertising campaign? Or should you maybe be considering TV campaigns? And how do you keep the costs down? Where do you actually go? And should you be starting on radio or TV, or should you be looking at digital forms of delivery? Should you be looking at the likes of YouTube? Should you be maybe spending more money on SEOing your website and driving footfall to your website? Should it really be a paper campaign that you're working on, maybe with a national or something like that? Or do you go about doing some form of contra deal, or do you rely on your press releases and your PR to actually drive audience to your site, to your product, or to your business? There's a number of different things to consider, but radio, perhaps TV, perhaps maybe a bit of a shortcut to actually drive there. It's interesting, you look at YouTube at the moment, and it's a bit of a gold rush on YouTube if you want to use YouTube advertising. But hey, look who's just over their shoulder. It's Facebook. Now, Facebook aren't after you and I who go on there and go, oh, look what I had for dinner today. What they're looking to do is they're looking for the big brands to advertise, and they're looking for you to say, yeah, I like that ad, and to put it onto your face and to like it, and therefore to generate advertising for them. And the big brands now are looking very seriously at the likes of Facebook and Facebook video advertising to promote and market their brands. We're going to come back, we're going to talk a little bit more. We are going to talk as well about maybe the construction of an ad, what you should be considering. And I think the nice thing about doing that as well is it'll also put in your mind's eye perhaps how you should talk about your product in day-to-day conversation when you're talking to maybe a potential customer, highlighting what is good about your product, the key benefits of your product, and then, you know, a call to action. You can talk about the features and some other day. I don't really care with it, how much RAM it's got. Is it going to be a phone? You know, and will it make calls? You know, the benefits. Is it going to save me time? Identifying what a benefit is and identifying what a feature is, and should you be using a mix? Should you be using both in your campaigns? I've talked a lot now. Let's move on to something else. Last week on the programme we had Ian Dixon, a multi-award winning business performance coach and also motivational speaker as well. He's the founder of Unlock Success Limited. Fascinating show once again. It was nice to see somebody who just wanted to share everything, had loads of information, and he just wanted to share it with you. It was a great show. If you haven't had a chance to see programme number 81, maybe here's a couple of reasons to actually go back and watch Ian Dixon on Business Connections Live. My guest on today's show is Ian Dixon, multi-award winning business performance coach and motivational speaker, and the founder of Unlock Success Limited.
There is no better time to be in business, and if you've been in business for a long time, this is the time to make money. So my job, and hopefully today we're going to do a little bit of that, is I want to just disperse as much information as I can, knowing that we're probably only going to get to 2 in 10 that watch, and of those 2 in 10, if we push enough information out, there'll be something that they can grab. So if you ever expect to get anything other than the best, you need somebody to push you or to take you to another level. And often it's not you that we need to get at, it's the other you. So from business performance coaching or business coaching as a thing is, you know, one of the things I say is, even though I'm called a business coach, I've never coached a business in 10 years. I coach people. A good question that I'll often ask from a stage is, just stop for a second and think how much the world has changed just in the last 5 years from a business perspective. I have a formula for change, which is, I'm a terrible one, I'm a visual person, so I like drawing stuff, but basically dissatisfaction times the vision plus the first steps have to be greater than the resistance. Let me take the first 2 away. So if you're dissatisfied about something, it has to be greater than the resistance. I've only ever done 1-year plans and end-of-life plans, if you like. So what's it all for kind of thing. When your business is finished, where do you want to be? Often business owners will say to me, they're earning plenty money, they're just not getting any time with their family. It might be that they get hassle every day from the staff that they employ. And you know, one of the things that changed me when I went away and did my coach training is to reverse that process and decide what you want, and then what activities do I need to do to get there. I don't want to misquote, but I think it's Winnie the Pooh said, all right, sometimes we have to stop bumping down the stairs to understand why we're bumping down the stairs. As an industry, we tend to attract 2 types of people: those that are on the bones of their backsides, desperately trying to survive, and that's when I have to put my Superman pants on and my cape and try and rescue them. Normally it's too late, and normally it's men, to be honest. And then I attract those people that desperately want to go to the next level. They've got all the drive, ambition and desire, but they don't have the how. So, you know, there isn't a single day when I'm out coaching where I don't learn something from my clients. So, and if I'm meeting somebody new or I'm doing a talk somewhere and I'm sharing happy numbers or something, it brings it back to the front and keeps it alive for me. I'd been coaching probably about 2 years before I really realised that actually, without people having the right mindset and attitude, having all the tools in the box and helping them to take action all becomes irrelevant if they're not right here. Which is why I spent a lot of time trying to understand people. 10 years ago, I'd have said, don't advertise on the radio or TV. It costs a fortune and it goes nowhere. It's a complete waste of time. So now I wouldn't be sat here right now if that was still true. So things have moved on. So sometimes a business owner will stay stuck in, like I say, the world has changed so much. So it's about imparting knowledge. When I coach 20-odd businesses like I do, there'll be things that I've tried in other businesses. I say, well, this worked for them, we should give it a go. My name is Ian Dixon, you're watching Business Connections Live. I would like to share with you some key ingredients that will help you be successful in your business. So those three key ingredients are mindset, knowledge and action. So having the right mindset and attitude to what you do is fundamental to your success. If you found yourself in a bad space, get yourself back into a positive space, surround yourself with happy, positive people, seek out help to get you back on track, because without the right mindset you won't take knowledge and learning and you won't take the appropriate action. Plan everything. Get a plan together for the next 12 months. You don't have to do anything beyond the next 12 months, but get a 12-month plan together. Measure your success and failures, measure what you do, measure everything. If something is going to change, measure it. You need to measure everything in your business. Be a decision maker, get started today. There's no waiting for the New Year's, no waiting for next month. There's things that you can do to start today. And taking action is have some accountability, get somebody to watch over you, share with other people, think about whether or not you're an away from or toward type person, so that you can internally work with pressing your own buttons to get those things done. So just some very simple tips. Business is a very complicated subject, I know, but I do try and simplify everything. My name's been Ian Dixon, I'm a business coach and motivational speaker. I hope you found it useful. Thank you, Steve, for today.
My pleasure. He was a great guy, actually, and we're going to be doing some work with Ian over the coming months, which is terrific fun. You may bump into him as well at the big business show that's taking place this week up at the Excel Centre this Wednesday and Thursday, in fact, 13th and 14th of May 2015 at Excel. It is the Business Show 2015. Some good keynote speakers are going to be there. Brad's going to be there, Brad Burton. Piers Linney's going to be there. A couple of the guests that have been on the program. We've got Dan Spicer from head of community at Hootsuite. By the way, if you've missed out on that show, do watch it. If you're using Hootsuite for your social media, some really good advice there. Also, our old buddy to the programme, Neil Clough, he's one of the keynotes as well, along with a whole host of other people. Now, some sad news. We were going to be up there broadcasting for the 2 days. Due to technical reasons, we won't be broadcasting, but we are going to be there on Wednesday walking around with a camera, so we could well be interviewing you and getting a bit of an update on what happened at the show. We're going to be meeting many of the keynote speakers that we were going to have on the programme live on the 2 days. We're going to be interviewing them anyway, and you should be able to see that over the next couple of weeks or so if you come to our website at businessconnectionslive.com. We're looking forward to that. It's going to be great fun, and it also means we're not there for 2 days, we're there for a day. So if you see us, stop us and buy one. It's very, very important. Don't forget, you can go to the website at businessconnectionslive.com. You can also follow us on Twitter at BCL Business TV, and we look forward to seeing you at the business show this Wednesday when we're up there with our cameraman. You're watching Business Connections Live. It is week number 82. My guest today is Richard Teideman. We're talking about actually all things when it comes to advertising, radio, TV, digital. It's all there. It's all part of the mix. Let's come back to you. And Richard, it's great to have you with us. Richard, there is this confusion in people's mind's eye about how they should promote their service, promote their product. You've said that, you've done thousands of radio campaigns. Is there a formula to it? Is there something? Do we overcomplicate it as business owners when we come to you? Are we asking too much, or is it? What should we be considering if we're thinking about a radio campaign?
An advertising guru of the late 80s from Madison Avenue in New York taught a formula that I think still actually really works today, and it's so simple, and if you look at it, it's still the format of most commercials today, and it's as simple as, first of all, you've got to be solving a problem. So what exactly is that problem? So why don't you start with a headline that just announces your problem, then you restate the problem, and then your business technically should be the solution to that. And then after that, you can state the reasons why you are the solution. And then do you know the key thing to do? Give an offer and add urgency. Offer and urgency are two of the key things that you can do to get people to come quickly. So I was looking for a hotel last night, and I don't know if you've had it, but when you go on to booking.com, they say 4 people have booked this in the past hour.
Very clever.
And you suddenly think to yourself, oh my gosh, this is going to sell out if I'm not careful. That urgency is a very powerful motivating factor for people to buy. And some businesses have a very long business development cycle where it might take 8 months. You have to be in that picture, and repetition builds reputation. Every time time I talk to you about my product, it registers in your mind and you remember me better. You know, it's a fine romance with no kisses. And actually the truth is you do have to romance your target audience, you really do. And so once you've actually given that urgency and also you've given an offer that gives me another reason, then it's a one-directional call to action. So I can't necessarily remember a phone number and a website.
Nope.
But I can remember one or the other. And I'm quite happy to look you up online. It's non-confrontational, and actually it's in looking at your website that I can find out more information. And the latest Forrester research from the US is saying that more than ever before, companies that want to buy B2B products are interested in researching more than ever online before they actually make a purchase. So I need to validate the reasons online as well. So that online experience is becoming integral to any other advertising activity that you do.
Do you come across companies that will come to you and they will talk to you about this and they don't have anywhere to go, or they forget that you've got to ask them to do something? A lot of people talk about web pages. When you go to a website, what's the purpose of going to the website? Is there something to do when you get there? And I'm just thinking, like, when you're talking there, you've really got to, here's your ad. For instance, have you got a big nose? There's the problem. We can chop off your big nose. We've chopped off over 100 big noses very successfully. Go to our website at chopoffyourbignose.com.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. And that's a perfect example. And also, here's a good guide too. When it comes to building websites for yourself, these days, if you notice, the big players, the big guys, they look upon it in terms of what behaviour are you trying to leverage out of your audience. So when I booked that hotel last night, I went on to a couple of hotel websites. They all want me to do the same thing, search. And once they've got me to search, there's nothing else on there. I don't have to phone them. I don't have to remember their name. All I've got to do is begin to search, and they'll draw me into an experience online that ultimately leads to a buying decision. So if you think about your website in terms of behavioural, then the best apps will only get you to do one thing. My Train Times app just wants me to look up train times. That's all it wants me to do. You know, and so the most complicated apps want you to do all sorts of different things. Read a blog, look at this, look at that, and all of a sudden I'm not buying anymore. I'm just feeding myself information. So if you think about it in terms of behaviours, that's a very powerful way to actually draw somebody in.
But do you think we've got two different types of website? We've got the aggregators, who are, you know, the Go Compares, the hotels, search sites. So you've got them, and then you have the business sites where it is a single product, a single call to action, a single thing that they're trying to promote. Are the two working differently in your opinion?
Yeah, I think they are, and it depends on the business model. And you can see it with some of these multinational companies that are huge and they've got all sorts of different disciplines. So Thomson Reuters, for example, who really knows what Thomson Reuters do? We all know that they do something, but
Holidays,
they all do so many things, you know, that in fact it's very hard for them to put across on their website exactly what they do. So what have they done? They've broken up their product into separate websites. So if you want to find out about this, then you need to go to this.
It's interesting because we've seen a lot of that now, and we had a programme some time back, one of the earlier programmes, and we were looking at Paul Imrie. I was trying desperately to remember his name, Paul Imrie, who is a fantastic web designer in his own right. He came on the programme. He developed a website for a particular company. If my memory serves me right, I think it was for tiles or something like that. It was a builder's merchant kind of site. And what they had done, they developed two sites, one for the trade and one for the normal, you and me, the end user, the customer, the Joe public. And the two sites were completely different in their approach, in what they were selling, and in the way they worked. Both for the same company, both generating return for the same company, but totally different experience. And that's interesting. That's really what we should be considering.
I think so. And also, it's in terms of a conversation. So often when a company comes to me and they're asking for advice in terms of what they do, I say, well, look, what exactly do you do? And they say, well,
but do they know?
No, often they don't. And so I've got a trick now. I say, give it to me in a tweet. Just give it to me. What do you do in a tweet? And a tweet is, what, 140 characters, isn't it? And if you can't give your proposition in a tweet, you need to go back to brass tacks and say, well, OK, what exactly are we doing again? You know, so I could say to you, well, listen, I will help you with your advertising to make more money from it. It's as simple as that. And then obviously there's a lot more detail in there.
Well, we like that though. That's a great line.
That one-directional proposition.
Now, It's full of stories, this program. 2 weeks ago, went up to London to see Warren Knight. Warren Knight, who's been on the show, I think he's one of the keynotes as well at the business show as well, for that matter. He's just launched a book called #Digital, the world of digital, how you should be using digital within your business. He did that very thing with the audience. He handed out a piece of paper, pens for everybody, and he said in 140 characters, write down what your business does. Then, and here was the real hoot of the evening, he said, now hand it to somebody else and ask them what they think you've just written. And that really does test things out. And sometimes, it's like when you're designing websites, you get too close to the website and you know how to navigate around it. You know the route that you're always going to take. However, will your client, will your customer, when they visit, your visitor, that footfall that we're all looking for, will they know how to navigate around your site? It's an interesting way to come back. Listen, we've got to pull ourselves back on track a little bit here. Let's look at the low end. Let's look at radio advertising, not TV for a moment. Let's look at radio advertising. First of all, the radio landscape across the country really is very different to the way it was maybe 5 years ago. Where do you start if you are a small business? I'm a small business and I'm in, shall we say, Manchester. And I'm thinking that I'd like to raise my profile I'd like to actually not raise my profile, I'd actually like to get my product out there. I'd like to sell more product. Where do I start?
First of all, understand that not all radio stations are the same. What I would say is if you're a local business in Manchester, you are well suited to do radio advertising, because radio advertising really works most powerfully when it's local or regional. And Manchester is a good place because it's got a good density of population. So there's going to be people in your area who are going to want to buy your product. But then you've got to understand, well, what radio stations are there, for example, in Manchester to choose from? And what you'll find is there are different tiers. And it's very easy to find out what sort of tier the radio station is that you're talking to, because it's how much it costs to advertise and how many people are listening. I'll tell you a profound truth. There are a lot of radio stations out there that nobody's listening to. And particularly, they are the smallest ones. The tiny ones, you've got a handful of people listening, and they're really just community radio stations. There's a place for going on those, but of course it's mudslinging. And if you haven't got many listeners, and you're not going to be broadcasting to that many people, so there's going to be fewer chances to buy.
Is that one of these situations where you see with shopping TV, very quickly going there, but with shopping TV where we see the infomercials on channels in the middle of the night that you would assume that nobody watches, like, you know, the World of the Penguin TV, something like that. And yet you see shopping TV all the way through. Someone just told me I watched that. But you're watching. So what they're doing is but it's lots of infomercials. In fact, the same infomercial all night. So they've piled it high and they're selling it cheap. Yep. And you're just hoping that by doing that, you're actually going to get some return, because there's just so much of it. And that's so much mudslinging, I suppose.
Here's the thing. So you're buying the ears or the eyes or both of an audience. And the more money you spend, the more ears and eyes you can hit. And so if you spend a lot of money, you can go on a big telly channel like ITV and advertise. And for example, in one spot in the middle of the X Factor is going to cost you £100,000.
Gosh.
Why is that going to cost you £100,000? Well, it's because you are reaching a good proportion of the United Kingdom. And in the same way, if you spend £50 on your local community radio station, you might be reaching 60, 70, 100, 200 people. So what you pay for is what you get. The other thing to understand is that not all radio stations carry advertising. So there's a whole load of radio stations out there like the BBC channels, and you won't find any advertising because they're not commercial radio stations. And it's worthwhile knowing that, because you can try as hard as you can to get on local radio in Manchester, but you're never going to get on there because they don't actually run advertising. And that's very important to know as well.
You know, it is an interesting area, isn't it? The whole concept of what you're trying to do. If you were trying to do the BBC, should we say, would you approach the BBC? Would that be more advertorial, but disguised as editorial?
Yeah, well, there's a truth there, and we're blowing secrets today. So the truth is that most PR companies lobby the local and regional and national BBC stations to get brands into there. So when you listen to a BBC station in the morning, you're not really listening to something with no advertising. When I read my paper, I'm not reading something with no advertising. I'm reading brands using PR companies to get advertorials, as you say.
Now, you mentioned a moment ago about the single big ad, the £100,000 ad in the middle of the X Factor. What is this thing about the number of times that somebody's got to hear or see something before it becomes effective? What is that all about? If I'm spending £100,000, I'm expecting that one hit to do the business, or am I saying that is part of a campaign?
Yes, it is. So there are certain media that are frequency media. Television is a frequency medium, and what that means is it means that you have to repeat a number of times to build enough scale to get the reaction. In the same way, radio is a frequency medium, so you have to repeat a number of times to build familiarity, and it may be after 4 times of hearing or seeing that ad I will then respond. But the one time I might not respond. So I'm building a relationship with my audience through repetition, which is going back to that adage, repetition builds reputation. It's the same thing online, you know, someone might come to your website 2, 3, 4 times before they buy. And in fact, there's a reason for that, because they're getting familiar with you. You know,
they're beginning to understand who you are and your personality.
Right. Yeah, I liken it to dating. Really, it's very unlikely you're going to marry somebody on the first date. Whereas, in fact, you know, you have to go through quite a few dinners and quite a few experiences before you actually get to that point of marriage. And it's exactly the same thing.
I'll tell you what we'll do in just a moment, particularly on radio. We will talk about TV in more detail, but particularly radio. We'll talk about the budgetary aspects of it in just a moment or so, if that's okay with you. You're watching Business Connections. I hope you're finding it as fascinating as I am. Having worked both in the radio industry and the TV industry, but it all been direct response, as I'd like to call it, in shopping TV. It is a fascinating area. I think radio, when you sometimes hear the radio stations going, "We are #1." And then you look at actually what the figures are saying, and it might be that they've got a 20% reach, which means 20% of the population in that particular area actually have some involvement with them, which means that 80% choose never, ever, ever, ever to listen to them. Yet they are the #1 radio brand in a particular area. And it's something to consider. And that applies really right across the board to media in general. When you're looking at the local newspapers as well, you know, that reach is really important. You're watching Business Connections Live. By the way, if you are watching us on YouTube, please don't forget to subscribe. We love to have our subscribers. It's important to us as well because it gives us a bit of feedback as well. If you like the show, give us a thumbs up. Here's your call to action right now. You better do that right now. Also, please do leave a comment under the programme as well. If you want to watch any of the other shows, don't forget you can always go to our website, which is businessconnectionslive.com. All the shows are there. There's a lot more other information on the site as well. And if you'd like to maybe sign up, subscribe to the actual website itself. That's our other call. Too many calls to action, in fact. But, you know, wherever you've got anything that says sign up, do it. All right? It's as simple and as straightforward as that. Let me just tell you about what's happening on future shows. On the show next week, it's Andy Williams. Now, you thought he was long dead, didn't you? But he's not. Andy Williams is going to be with us. He's going to be giving advice on SEO for your website. We've had Andy on before. Andy's left the company he was with previously. He's out there on his own now. So maybe if you're looking for somebody that can give true, proper, solid advice on SEOing a website, should you be considering SEOing your website as a first port of call, or should you be maybe doing AdWords and things like that and be SEOing in the background all the time? Andy will explain all of that. Andy's going to be on the program next week. That's Andy Williams talking about SEO. And on future programs, we've got Nikki Butland. She's going to be coming in. She's going to be talking about franchising. If you're thinking that I'd like to start a company maybe straight away, you know, I've got some cash, maybe I've been made redundant and I'm going to go out there and I'd like to buy into an operation. You see a lot of these companies around now that will do things like chip repair and stuff like that. You can buy into the franchise, you get the training, you then sign right your van and away you go. You're up and running pretty much straight away. There are a lot of opportunities out there. So is franchising the right route for you? Nikki Butland's going to be explaining that. And we've got Andrew Weaver from lawyer comparison site lawyerfair.com joining us on the programme as well. If you are looking for legal advice for your business, he'll be able to come in and tell you a little bit more about that. Okay, we are talking about TV radio advertising. tricky area. If you've never done it before, how do you start? But probably more importantly, can you afford to start? Can I afford to start? Does it matter where I am in the country? Is it important where I am in the country? And will that dictate what the budget is I've got to spend?
Yes, is the answer to that. And there's a few things you might want to think about. So if you listen to your classic radio advertisers, there's a few keys there that will tell you what works on radio and what doesn't. What do I hear a lot of? Window companies. How much does it cost you to get your double glazing done? A few £1,000s, perhaps. You've got motor companies. How much does it cost you to buy a car? A good few £1,000s. They're very successful advertisers. So the indication would be that you need to have a fairly large high-ticket product in order to make your radio advertising work long term. Does that mean you can't work on smaller products? No, but the bigger your margin or the bigger your sale price, the more chance you've got of obviously making one sale that pays for the campaign. The other thing is to bear in mind is that where you are in the country will dictate how dense the population and therefore how expensive the radio station. So London is the most expensive area in the UK, and so you've got very expensive radio stations like Heart, like Capital, for example, in London. They're going to cost you a lot of money. Nationally, you've got Classic FM, you've got Absolute Radio, and you've got TalkSport. They're the only three complete broadcasters to the entire nation. They cost a lot of money to go on.
Come on, let the secret out of the bag. Do they work?
What, those national stations?
Well, even the London stations.
The London stations, yes, they do. Yeah, they do. I mean, and
categorically.
Radio, no, not categorically. Radio is priced according to its potency. So the more you pay, the more you'll get. There is a reason why the big advertisers go on the big stations. But in fact, you can do very, very well on a radio, on a regional or on, say, a local station if you throw enough mud at the wall.
How much money is the mud going to cost me? Approximately. What should I start to be budgeting? Is it a case of turnover of my business, or if I know this is difficult because London is kind of different from the rest of the country, isn't it? So if I was London, the home counties down here, for a campaign that's actually going to work, what kind of money should I be considering?
That's a bit of a piece of string question. I can answer it in
I can tell you, I know how long a piece of string is.
I can answer
it's
it in
27.5 inches. I measured it once. That's how long it is.
I can answer it in another way. So it might be that you should think about it in terms of your target audience. So if you're based in Salisbury, for example, there is a very nice pocket of wealthy people in Salisbury or Cambridge, for example, a nice little pocket of wealthy people in Cambridge, and you can reach them for a fairly small amount of money, but in fact you're reaching a very high net worth bunch of people. So it can work very nicely. But then it comes down to what your target audience is. And whatever your target audience is, there's a radio station for it. So if you're looking at, say, KISS, or if you're looking at XFM, you're looking at a slightly younger audience. Whereas Classic FM, you're looking at a slightly more mature audience. Saga Radio is an even more mature audience. Capital Radio is normally younger. Heart is normally slightly more female biased. So you can begin to think about that in terms of your existing target market. But to really take the lid off the thing, I would say...
This is the big secret now, the big reveal. Ladies and gentlemen, the big reveal. He'll never work in the industry again.
I would say that I turn down more people who are inquiring to go on radio than take, because most of the time they don't have enough money to make it scale. So if you're looking to go on something like Capital Radio or one of the London radio stations, you should expect to be spending on your airtime upwards of about £5,000 a week. Whereas you can quite happily go on a little station in Cornwall, for example, and
buy it.
Yeah, and spend £1,000, £2,000 and have a very good campaign as a result of it.
But once again, this is a bit like where we are with Google at the moment, where we've got Google Local, isn't it? SEOing your website for local content so that people within a certain radius will come to your website. And that is a very effective way. And you see this now with a lot of sites where they'll say, we're the best SEO people in Surrey, yeah. or even in a town, you know, in Staines upon Thames. Strange, but that's fascinating to say that. So that's the kind of money that one should be expecting across the board. For a 5,000 campaign, then in London, is a week enough?
No. So you're looking at typically a 4-week campaign. And that doesn't have to run concurrently for the whole 4 weeks. So you get something called a retail week, where I might run Wednesday through Saturday just to drive people into my stores in London. So you might hear all of your classic furniture advertisers like SGS, they're called, aren't they, and Furniture Village. You won't hear them on a Monday, but you're going to hear them on a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, because everyone's going to go there on
Just
Saturday.
remind me, are they still running a sale? We don't want to miss that sale, do we? We really don't want to miss a sale.
Well, DFS are a really interesting example, because they decided that advertising was the way forward, and they bought the market. That's exactly what they did. So no one in any doubt, as far as DFS are concerned, they are your go-to for sofas. How did they do it? Through mudslinging.
So it seems it's all down to mudslinging then. That's what's going to be important for your business. You've got to mudsling as much as you possibly can. More from Richard in just a few moments' time. There are other ways, though, of getting to your customers, and you've really got to remember that. Don't be thinking all of a sudden that radio is the solution to end all solutions. You know, if I do radio advertising, it's going to work. There is always this possibility, regardless of what he says, but there's always this possibility that it may not work, and it could be down to the words that you use. We'll talk a little bit about maybe the words that you should use in a campaign, because once again, it's a good exercise in business in general for you to be thinking about the words that you use to promote and to market your individual products or your business to your clients. I mean, a lot of people get this very wrong when they go to networking events. They don't really talk about what they do. They don't have that water cooler pitch ready and waiting. I always say that everybody should have a minute in their mind's eye about themselves, so they can do a quick CV of themselves, a quick précis about what they're about, what their aspirations are, and then a minute in their mind's eye about what their business is about. And a lot of people will judge somebody by what they do. They'll meet you and what do you do? It's the normal question. We'll have a minute to tell them what you do, but make certain that you tell them what you do, and then try and include a bit of a call to action inside of it. Talking about ways, as I said, of getting to your clients, radio, TV, digital advertising is one method. Another method is to really use digital again, but social media in an intelligent, comprehensive, cohesive way. And one of the really big boys in this is LinkedIn. If you are a LinkedIn advocate, then you'll know already the success that LinkedIn can bring you. It gives you an opportunity to target exactly organizations and companies. It gives you an opportunity to talk to a lot of people by using groups. But sometimes that can all be hidden in the ramifications of going online to LinkedIn, signing up. What do you do then? Angus Grady came in on the programme a little while back, and we thought we'd just give a little bit of a tease about some of the things that he talked about when he was on the show when it comes to using in business LinkedIn. My guest on tonight's programme is Angus Grady of Custom Eyes Media, and we're going to be talking about LinkedIn. Let's just say it a few times so that we really get it into our head. LinkedIn, LinkedIn, LinkedIn. It could be, and probably is, one of the most powerful tools that you as a small to medium scale enterprise, a small business actually has to exploit and to use.
There are kind of two aspects to this. You can either go prospecting, where you're not spending any money to actually buy ads like, you know, for Google AdWords or for Facebook advertising or for advertising here on like LinkedIn. So there's prospecting where it's kind of essentially free, it's your time, it's not free, but or you actually go and buy those ads. And I think that the great thing about LinkedIn, you can spend money on LinkedIn, for instance, but you can also do an awful lot of prospecting across social media where you kind of look, you kind of interrogate the noise. It's not about broadcasting often, it's about listening. And, you know, on the back of my business card, I've got a great thing. It says, you know, that no man ever listened himself out of a job.
This is your profile.
This is my profile, and I've optimized it, which means that I've got keywords running through the, you know, sort of headline area here. And basically, those are what people will be searching for. That's a key area to be searching. So I do LinkedIn training, I do social selling, I help people to use things like LinkedIn, the internet, and also all social media to generate source leads, for lead generation, to source leads, people and opportunities. People are coming to your website looking for a solution. They've already asked Google the question, and they've come up with some options. So Google comes up with some options, and one of them might be my website. They might go to that, they might look to see, does it answer my question? Does it solve my pain? Your website should be like a Venus flytrap. It should be a Venus flytrap for leads. You know, you get to your site, and if there's not an opt-in form, you're wasting your time. So basically, this is about your value proposition, about what you do, what pain you solve, how you address things, what you do essentially for people. And what people tend to do down the bottom here is they tend to put a whole load of specialities, and it will go social media, social media, social media. So they'll keep slightly different phrases but saying exactly the same thing. But the more powerful way is to build a stronger, more compelling narrative, almost a story of what you've done, and why what your background was. In mine, I've mentioned about my sort of background in advertising. The rest of the power of LinkedIn is about searching, and it's about knowing what to do with your connections. Most people, as I said, they have like connections, but what they do is they don't do anything with them. And you can do something called tagging. Mm-hmm. Which means that you can create tags. I think that the key thing to take away from tonight is the fact that get your profile fully optimized. Your headline, your sort of summary area, put some rich sort of media in there. Make sure you've got a clear call to action. In your experience section as well, make sure that you use your keywords in there as well. Try to remember to tag people. Because that's a great way of sort of communicating with people. And social selling is about engagement. It's about building relationships. We're no longer in the cold calling phase. We've got to think about how we can then take that relationship offline. So you get a meeting and build connections, but build them sensibly, and build them with sort of politeness. And try and think about what you would like to receive as an invitation. Use your groups, make sure your company page is set up, and link your personal profile to your company page. A must do that we didn't have the chance to do. I think that technology kind of got in the way a little bit there, but I mean, yeah, those are the key takeouts. And of course, contact me, connect with me. Just go into my profile, send me a connection, and just say that you watched the programme tonight, and happy to connect. And anything I can do to help, my phone number's on there, my Twitter address is on there, please feel free to get in contact.
It's good stuff, LinkedIn. There's no two ways about it. In fact, the top-rated show that we've got, the highest number of views, is by a guy called Steve Mills, and he also looks at LinkedIn. There's around about 3 or 4 programs on LinkedIn. It is a great way for businesses, a serious way for businesses to get in touch with each other and to promote to each other and to talk to each other. Also, if you want to get in the doors as well of large multinationals, you can follow them on groups, and you can actually get to managing directors. The one thing that is annoying, and if you're on LinkedIn, the one thing that is annoying about LinkedIn, I feel, is if you approach somebody and you'll read down their profile and it'll say open to ideas, suggestions for business or whatever, and you approach them and then they come back and they go spam, and you think, well, what's the point? Get off LinkedIn. If you don't want to be part of the game, if you don't want to be on the ride, get off the ride. Don't just be there for vanity's sake. If you're going to be there, use it and use it back. And I think that's important to remember about all the social media. The clue is in the first word, social. It's a two-way conversation that everybody needs to have. And you've got to have that. Twitter, it's social. You've got to, if somebody enters into a conversation with you, then you've got to answer back. You wouldn't go to a networking event and stand there and let people talk to you and then walk away. You would think that would be rude, wouldn't it? Well, yet people will do that on social media all the time. You're watching Business Connections Live. We've talked a little bit about radio advertising and how it could work for you in this digital age. There is a lot of noise out there, isn't there, to cut through?
There's a lot of noise, there's a lot of emperor's new clothes, and there's a lot of jargon and rhetoric, whereas really the only way to get down to really what works and what doesn't work is to try it for yourself and do tests. Do a little test, see if it works. If it does work, beat it to death until it stops working. That's the adage. Never changes, always the same.
Let's talk. I am going to ask you at the end to give some takeaways. I'm going to ask you for a little 3-minute piece of camera or thereabouts to give us some takeaways. Let's talk about the words that we use. You are a wordsmith, thousands of ads, and you're not one of these guys that goes, right, we're going to do you an ad. Could you write it for him? You're not one of those. You are the guy that will sit down with the pen and paper. Maybe you've got a word processor now. I don't know. And this newfangled technology. And you will craft a script for them. Are there words that you should be using? Are there? I mean, we talked earlier on about that headline. How important is the headline proposition?
I would say your proposition is everything, and once you've nailed that proposition, it's a matter of just repeating it and repeating it and repeating it and repeating it. And if you look at some of the greats in the whole of the history of advertising, you can find out that really it's normally in less than 8 words you've succinctly put across what you're doing.
Can you remember any of yours?
Any of mine? Well, one of my favourites that was never bought was for a healthcare company, and the strapline was, "When you're on your back, we're on your side." And no one,
I'll buy it.
No one ever wanted that. I can't quite see why, but you try these things, do you? But if you look at people like Specsavers, quality lenses in about an hour.
Yeah.
What else can you say?
And what's interesting about that as well is the word about been in there, because about isn't a typical word that you would imagine would be in a proposition.
Yeah, yeah. And I love some of these new ones, like Coke's most recent Open Happiness. Okay, they're big brands, and so they can play with these very broad straplines. But why not go back to your tweet? Why not go back to a key question is to ask yourself is this: what is the key motivating factor that makes people buy your product? So, for example, people buy out of fear. Often you buy life assurance out of fear, or you buy insurance out of
if
fear.
you die tomorrow, will your family be okay?
There it is.
Yeah.
Or people buy to be richer. So, for example, how can you build that into your proposition? Or people buy to look more beautiful, or people buy to be more popular, or people buy to be part of the masses. And brands play on this. So unless I'm wearing my latest pair of trainers, I'm not part of the masses. And that's a very powerful motivating factor for young people.
All right, so that's our proposition then. Are there good words to have in the proposition?
Yes, there are. So there are buzzwords that, if you've ever done things like neuroscience and you've ever done things like neurolinguistics, you'll find that advertisers play on these words a lot. Like now is a very powerful word. It's immediate. Or hurry is another great word, for example. Or revolutionary. So we used to launch a lot of films, and every single film has to be the greatest thing of all time. There's no other way that you can market a film other than this is it. There is nothing else. This is simply it. And
you
so
can't go in a world.
Well, once upon a time.
Is advertising.
That was very powerful,
It was, and for a long time.
In space, no one can hear you scream. You know exactly what that film's all about straight away in that small line. And these are very famous, iconic lines. And in fact, nothing really changes. If you go back to standard advertising, you get your proposition, you get your "will you marry me" proposition, and then you take it out and you say it in different ways to different target markets.
Is this kind of verbal keywords?
I think it is, yeah, and this is where Google's very powerful, because Google advertising, if you've ever done a keyword search or keyword tool, you'll begin to find out what the appetite is for the way you're saying things. And this is the beauty of digital, because it does begin to, by sheer data and science, prove what is going to work for you and what isn't, just by past understanding what people have previously bought and clicked on in the past.
It's interesting, we were talking just while the last piece was on. We were listening to Angus, of course, in the background, but we were talking about YouTube advertising. It's very interesting. There is an organisation, a company out there at the moment who are doing a lot of YouTube advertising. And if you're not familiar with YouTube advertising, effectively the way it works is it's the ones that pre-roll before the videos, and the first, you've got 5 seconds before you can hit the skip button. 30 seconds, though, if you are the advertiser, is when you start to pay. And what they do in some of theirs, I'm going to give one of their secrets away, they will go straight away when the ad starts. They'll go stop. And then they make their proposition. And the word stop, it's a bit, I didn't expect that. It's a little hypnotic in the way it works. So the word stop, they give the proposition, and they do that in the first 5 seconds. Then what they do is they do their complete pitch in the first 20 seconds with their call to action and also driving it to the appropriate website. Now that means if somebody should respond in those 20 seconds, it means that they, as an advertiser, don't pay for it. If it goes past 30 seconds, then you start paying. I'm sure at some stage YouTube will turn around and go, whee! No, if they click on your link at all, you're paying for it. But you don't pay until 30 seconds. Now, if you've got somebody watching at 30 seconds, you can still have another 15 seconds or so to reinforce your message. But if they're watching at 30, then they're going to be a hot lead, aren't they? There's no two ways about it. And it's a great way of you can target right down to the kind of audience that you want. And it's a shame you can't do that with radio, really, isn't it? You know, when the ads come on, you know, skip the ads. Somebody once said to me, what is the industry that we're actually working in when it comes to radio? And I inadvertently said, well, I think we work in the music industry because we're here to play these songs. And I was told, no, you actually are in the advertising industry. And we've got to remember that's why the radio stations or the commercial stations are there. They want you to hear those ads, don't they?
Well, that's right. And also it's very significant to see what these radio stations are doing. So you're hard pushed to find a radio station now that's not owned by a big communications group. And they've been clever enough to realise that radio on its own is not going to survive. So you've got these big groups that own most of the stations. So Global Radio is a huge company that owns a good proportion of the radio network in the UK. So if you advertise or you listen to a local radio station, it's probably owned by Global. But Global is not just a radio business, it's an entertainment business. They've got artist management, they've got digital, they've got websites. So you might want to think about doing a bit of radio advertising, but then use the radio station website and use your other digital advertising as a combined advertising campaign, and that way you can create a really good multiplier effect, because multi-channel media advertising is always going to be greater than simply one.
Do you know, it's been a fascinating hour. We're going to run over it just a teeny weeny bit, no change there then, but it has been, and I feel that we've only really scratched the surface. We didn't really get into the whole, maybe you'll come back. Will you come back and talk about television?
Oh, thank you very much. Yes.
Well, we'd love you to have you come back and do that. It's been fascinating to hear that. Just give us a few more words that we should use, just a couple more words. So give me a couple of words. I want some words.
Are we talking about copy words?
Copy
like
words,
words
yeah.
in your copying. So revolutionary. I would say something like enjoy is an incredibly powerful word, or beware, stop, I think is a very powerful one. These are all very strong words. You know, love is a very powerful emotion. And so begin to think about these. You know, your love, the new such and such, is a very powerful, and not just that, or plus is a great word as well. Plus, we're going to do this, and plus, we're going to do that. And that's not all. We're going to do this as well. And all of a sudden...
there's more.
Exactly, yeah.
Yes. Well, listen, I hope you found it really interesting today. Don't forget, this is revolutionary. Plus, we give you lots of opportunities to promote your product. If you've watched the program today and you found it at all fascinating, please do leave a comment underneath the particular video that you're watching, the particular program. If you're thinking to yourself, boy, that is a really powerful medium. How fascinating. We've sat there, we've listened all about how to put together a radio campaign, what we should be considering when we go to radio stations, in an environment that has got a nice feel to it. Would you like a program like that for your business? Are you sending out newsletters that are just getting ignored? Would you like to turn your readers into viewers? If you'd like to do any of that, then you can come to us here at Business Connections Live. We can put together a program especially for you. In fact, we've got 4 networking or just 1, and we've got Debbie Huxton who's going to be kicking off at her program very shortly. We call the whole thing Your Brand TV. There it is. Your Brand TV, available right now if you want to actually have a program that is customised to your business, to your organisation. It's a great way of getting to your staff. It's a great way of getting to your customers as well. You can come on, You can either do it as an interview style, or you can come on and you can present the program yourself. Get in touch with us here at Business Connections Live. Just go to the website, businessconnectionslive.com, or of course you can always email us at studio@businessconnectionslive.com. There it is. There's the email address, studio@businessconnectionslive.com, or you can telephone us. You can either ask for myself or for Linda Bazant, and the telephone number is 01784 256 777. So that's it, pretty much, except for a little piece from Richard to finish the show off. Just before I do hand over to Richard, don't forget we're going to be at the Business Show. We're going to be there this Wednesday in Excel. If you do see us, come over and say hi. We'd love to have a chat with you and to find out a little bit about what you're doing. We always ask our guests, Richard, I'm Richard, you're Richard. Richard, to do a couple of minutes down the lens, just real takeaways for our viewers so that they've got a starting point for their business when it comes to maybe advertising on the media, radio, television, some of the key things, you know, some key takeaways that you can give. If you could just do it straight down camera number one, that'd be fantastic. Take a short breath, say who you are and the name of your organisation, and then take it away. It's all yours.
I'm Richard Teideman. I now work in the city for Cloisters Capital, but I've formerly been 20 years in advertising and judged on most of the awards boards. I've won multiple awards. And I would say this to you, I have seen advertisers work, and I've seen advertisers literally become millionaires as a result of their advertising activity. And what you do has a huge bearing on your personal wealth and your company wealth. So I would give a few simple guides. Number one is, can advertising work for you? Yes, it can. But first of all, distill what you do into a tweet. Give it a one-directional proposition, which is your "will you marry me" proposition. Number two is decide what media you're going to use. And I said media, not medium, because the important thing to know is that to just use one medium is probably not as powerful as to use multiple. So choose a multiple campaign and then test. Test, test, test. See what's working and then amplify what's working and discard what's not working. The next thing to do is make an offer, price your offer, give a call to action, give urgency, and most importantly, repeat it, because repetition builds reputation. Remember that digital is not the be-all and end-all. It's a very powerful medium, but there are others out there too. And there's a reason why the big guys are on the other media. So follow the big guys and copy what they do as well.
Fantastic. So good advice. Hopefully you're going to take that up. If you are a small to medium scale enterprise and you're thinking about radio advertising, maybe today has answered a few of the questions. The nice thing about it is all about telling your story, getting out there, using the buzzwords, using the right proposition to your customers, regardless of the medium that you use to get out there, be it radio, be it television, be it digital for that matter. Regardless of what it is, the same rules kind of apply. Okay, slightly differently applied in each of the individual cases, but a great opportunity for you to maybe promote and to market your business. Don't forget, on the show next week, we talk SEO with Andy Williams. He's going to be popping in. He'll be telling us what you should be doing on your website. Look at your website over the next 7 days. Are you one of these people that tells me how many vans you have and how big your premises are and how many whatever about your business? I don't care. I really, really don't care. I just want to know, do you supply the thing that I want? I don't care whether it's signed, written, or whether you've been in business for 1,000 years. I just need to know, do you make the thing I need? Do you sell the thing I want? Have a look at your website. We'll tell you how to SEO it next week. Don't forget Nikki Butland about franchising. Andrew Weaver from Lawyer Fair coming in over the next couple of weeks. Also, we've got Michael Graham and Michael Graham from MJB Graham with advice on business and sales development. That's all to come over the next couple of weeks. That practically wraps up this particular show. We hope you've enjoyed it. Don't forget, leave a comment. Do subscribe to our YouTube channel. Give us a thumbs up too. Just interact with the business. Till next week, when we do it all again, talking SEO from me, Steve Hunnard, and Richard. It's bye for now. Bye-bye.
Business Connections Live, the UK's leading online business channel.